Triceps back, sauna complete. Something that's been on my mind throughout this lift today, this morning, was the idea that discipline and motivation, these are things, these are, mental traits and ideas that everybody's talking about within, the mindset space, how to build that unbreakable mindset, And then there's this, whole debate about, oh, discipline is better than motivation. Oh no, motivation's better. And all of this. And it just has me thinking, that both of these things are overrated in the sense that they are not what truly matters. It is not what truly will carry you to the level of success that you want towards becoming your 2.0, your best self. And the reason I say this is because when we examine both of these things, motivation, I believe, is just simply when you feel compelled to do something, but it's not necessarily from within, at least how most people approach motivation, in the sense where they'll watch like a YouTube video, they'll see something externally, right? They'll see something externally, and then they all of a sudden feel the need to go and do this thing. For me, something I used to always feel was happening was that I would watch, content on like self-improvement and, improving your life in certain aspects. And then after seeing those videos, I would be like, yo, I gotta go and do that. I would just feel motivated. I would be full of motivation and drive to go and do the actions that I needed to get done. And it's like, while it seems like that's a valid thing, I draw back on the idea of effort over outcomes, where a lot of people motivate themselves with just the idea of the outcome of doing the work, but it's actually doing the work itself and not extracting motivation from external things. That is really what is desirable in terms of your mindset. And so that's the drawback on motivation, is that you only feel compelled, you only feel like doing things when you want to, right? And then on the other hand, with discipline, right, that's essentially just forcing yourself to do things when you do not feel like it. So then the drawback with that, evidently, as I've been especially examining within myself and my own behaviors, is that it's completely unsustainable, and that it breeds insecurity and it creates this attachment, and it forces you to feel the need to do certain things, to commit to certain principles that you don't necessarily align with. And I feel like a lot of people can resonate with this, especially within health, in that when you're educating yourself on health, as of course I have for so long, it's things like, especially recently, I've been learning about nutrient density and all of these things, and in terms of grass-fed meat, grass-fed dairy, all these things, organic, whatnot. It's like I noticed that I was forcing myself to almost restrict the types of foods I can eat, what certain products and brands I could buy, because I was in this mindset of like, oh, I have to discipline myself to only buy these products because so-and-so expert said that this is the best thing for your health. And it hasn't been until recently I've begun to deprioritize that and step away from disciplining myself within that regard, and more so just embracing what it is I like in terms of the foods I want to eat, whether they're nutrient dense or not. Of course, I value quality. That's not to say I won't go and buy that grass-fed steak or get that, organic fruit or vegetables, right? But it's also that if I feel like I want to have that, I'm not gonna prevent myself just out of discipline. Another thing is, sleep, where I used to discipline myself to have to sleep at the same time every single day. But recently, as I mentioned within my, you don't need 8 hours of sleep video, I expanded my window to accommodate more for just the changes within my lifestyle, whether, I'm working, or whether one day, maybe I want to, sleep in, or not sleep in, but, just stay up a little bit longer to maybe, do a bit more research on something that has been, tugging at my mind, or, journal about something, meditate, whatever it might be. It's about being flexible. That's really what it is. And it's something that I just recently learned about within this podcast I was listening to, called cognitive flexibility, where you don't allow yourself to mentally stress out about these things that you're trying to discipline yourself on. And I feel that is something I can really begin to pull on in terms of creating this more authentic lifestyle. And it leads perfectly into the idea that conviction is what you need to prioritize over motivation and discipline, because conviction solely comes from your own inner compulsions. It's why I said motivation isn't inherently bad, and the same thing with discipline as well. These things are more like boosts within your day-to-day life in certain scenarios, where sometimes motivation is good, sometimes discipline is good, but the overarching dominant trait and feeling that you should have is just conviction. Because when you are fueled by conviction within your decision, it all comes from your compulsions, it all comes from intuition, and trusting in that, being able to trust on that wholeheartedly, is what will carry you towards the success you want, because it all comes from you. It all comes from you. And something I preach within 2.0 is authentic success. It's authentic success, because when you're driven by motivation and discipline, you are more often than not operating on other people's standards, in terms of disciplining yourself to follow this health standard, or just this standard for success, or seeing somebody else's success and then you feel motivated to go and do your thing. But it all has to come from within. It all has to come from you. And that's why conviction is the cheat code towards your success, in terms of the mindset that you need to have in order to make it happen. It is one of the biggest factors within mental 2.0, within creating that mindset. And so how, as I mentioned, within conviction, it really just comes down to trusting your compulsions, because when you have conviction, you don't feel motivated. You don't need external motivation. You don't need things to motivate you to go and do the work, because you just naturally want to do the work. You know what needs to get done. And at the same time, you don't discipline yourself excessively either, because you don't feel the need to force yourself. You naturally want to go do those things. It all comes from just naturally feeling compelled to do those things, having that calm confidence. That's really what conviction is. It's just a calm confidence, because when you're motivated, you're full of energy. It's like a high. You're experiencing this high. And then with discipline, it's also sort of like a high. But the thing is, with highs, after you hit that high, it's gonna bounce to a low. It's why sometimes you feel extremely motivated to go do something, but then you're at it for a while, but then the motivation fades, because it didn't come from within you more often than not. But with conviction, it's this steady thing. It's this steady thing that builds and builds and builds over time, as long as you commit to exercising that conviction on a regular basis. And so it's why I preach within the mindset space, you do not want to rely on motivation and discipline. Those are boosts. Those are boosts to carry you. It's not to say that if you watch a video and you feel motivated, that you can't allow yourself to feel like that, or that when you acknowledge within yourself that you strayed from your standard, you went off, you didn't do something that you said you would do, then of course maybe you want to discipline yourself a little bit to ensure you get back on track. But it's always about just meditating back onto the idea that conviction is supposed to prevail. That conviction is the overarching thing that you need to be prioritizing. But yeah, that's definitely something I gotta continue focus on, and something that I have been focusing on. But yeah, that's really it. I'm gonna go slide to Whole Foods, buy me some avocados because I'm running out. But, yep, see y'all.